Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Take 3 at Konecktnow.com. We're here today with Poorvi Chitalkar. She's an independent consultant and attorney, and she's going to take us through her journey about being an attorney in the NGO sector, and then she's going to discuss some challenges and opportunities within the sector, specifically with respect to pluralism and diversity, which is the field that she works in. And then she's going to give us her advice about what to do as an attorney who's considering working in the NGO sector. So let's begin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here. Thanks, Kwei.
So I wanted to ask you if you could tell us about your journey as an attorney going to work in the NGO field.
Sure. So I studied law in India, and I was always interested in how you can use law for the larger social good. And so when I graduated, I started working in public interest law. So I was doing litigation on environmental issues, urban planning, social economic rights, and so on. And then I wanted to study more, and so I did my LLM in Canada. And there I focused on how the law intersects with international development and how you can use the law for more effective international development. And then that brought me to working at an organization in Canada that supports research for international development around the world. And after doing that for a few years, I was trying to figure out what to do next. And as luck would have it, right around that time, there was an organization, an NGO just starting up in Canada, focused on pluralism. And so basically trying to build more inclusive societies where different kinds of diversity would be respected. And so I took the job and I joined this organization, which then I started to think about how you could then use the law for pluralism and how you could use it to build more inclusive, pluralistic societies. Okay.
So let me ask you, if given all the conflicts that are going on around the world that people are facing right now, it seems like the message of pluralism and respect for pluralism and diversity is being disregarded. So do you agree with that? And if not, what's being done or what can be done to amplify that message of respect for diversity?
I think the answer is, is respect for diversity being eroded? Yes and no. I say yes because unfortunately it's true that all societies around the world are struggling with one challenge, and that is how do you live peacefully and successfully with diversity. The challenge, of course, looks very different in different places, right? So there are issues relating to how indigenous peoples are treated in Latin America or in Canada. There is very deep-rooted racism in societies like the United States. There is xenophobia and fears and anxieties towards, immigrants in Western Europe. There are ethnic divisions that sometimes lead to violent conflict in Africa. In South Asia, you have, caste-related and religious, differences that often lead to breakdown in societies. And so, it looks different in different places, but unfortunately, it's true that almost all societies around the world are struggling with this basic challenge. But there is a bright side, and the positive is that in any context where there is pluralism, breakdown or divisions, there are also champions of pluralism. There are also people who are trying to build more inclusive societies. So to answer your question, yes, I think unfortunately, pluralism breakdowns and deficits are quite common around the world, but I'm optimistic that as long as there are these champions of pluralism, that it's possible to build more inclusive societies.
Okay. So my final question is, given that you can be an attorney in different fields, what advice would you give to somebody who's considering being an attorney in the NGO sector?
From my personal experience, sometimes when you're in law school, you have these blinders on, right? You think your options are to practice as a lawyer and litigation, or you could be an in-house counsel, but basically those are, we think of those as our options. And I realized much later on that actually there are many, 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 many more things that you can do with a law degree. And actually I think that the skills that you learn in law school, right? You learn how to research, you learn how to think critically, to question everything, you learn advocacy, and you learn, the clarity and precision of language. All of those things are extremely powerful skills for a range of professions. So my advice to people who are in law school or considering this as a profession is to just sort of keep an open mind and think about what is it that interests you, what is it that you're passionate about. A professor of mine once said, what makes your blood boil? So figure out what that is, and then think about how you can use your legal skills and your legal training in that profession. But yeah, I think the possibilities are actually limitless.
Thank you for joining us at Konecktnow.com.